In 1947, Jackie Robinson joined the Brooklyn Dodgers and broke the Major League color barrier. The following memories are from the first generation of African American and Latin ball players to have the opportunity to play big league baseball. These men and others like them helped make the baseball of the early 60s the best it ever was.
I went to the playgrounds in the summertime when school was out at 9 in the morning, stayed till 9 at night, because I wanted to play with these guys. One day on the playground in Parkside, a Major League Baseball player came to our playground from the Washington Senators, and we didn't even know anything about the Washington Senators. We never heard of a Major League Baseball team. And this man came here, and his uniform was immaculate. He had the piping on his uniforms, and it was color coordinated. His shoes were shining, he was bright in his face. And I looked around in the back, and he didn't have a half a pint of whiskey in his back pocket. And he was white. And we're all looking at him in awe. Who is this person? But Jerry Pretty came out of our playground, and he didn't stay a half hour. He didn't stay an hour. He stayed 2 hours. And he looked us in the eyes, and he looked us in the face, and he talked to us, and he explained about baseball and how, the mechanics. So he was a second baseman. And he singled me out, all these kids, and he asked me to move over, told the kids to move back, and he threw me a ground ball, and I got my little feet in place, and picked the ball up with some balance and threw it back to him. He said, great. He said, look at this boy. Look at him. He's good. And he looked at my feet, and I was barefooted. He said, son, where are your baseball shoes? I hadn't even owned a pair of shoes, ever.
When I was 5 years old, my father bought me on Christmas Day, but over there Christmas Day is January 6th, just to be different. He bought me a uniform, and I still got the picture. That's when I started getting interested in the game, and I guess I haven't stopped.
When you grow up in Cuba, hit all those kind of stuff, you hit comp cup, you hit the bottle cup, you hit those little rubber ball. Plus, sometimes we make their own balls. And you use a piece of stick, a skinny piece of stick to hit. Your eyes that get so good that when you see the big wide baseball here in the United States, no way you can miss. This is what happened to me.
We use cow pads for bases, and baseballs are wrapped with black tape and bats that had nails in them, and you put the tape around there and you hit. And we had 4 or 5 guys on the side, no set positions.
We were the 1955 New York State champions of the Kiwanis League. Played our final game in Cooperstown, New York. We beat Watertown, New York, 7-5. They had us 5-2 most of the game, but they kept coming up with ethnic words that we weren't used to hearing. And this is upstate New York. Really didn't expect them. I mean, they talked about everybody. They talked about the Italians, the Jewish guy, the Irish guy, and the black guy. And if they'd have kept quiet, we probably would have lost. But they got our dander up, and we came back and beat them 7-5.
My father bought my brother and I boxing gloves from the 10-cent store. Not those big pillow goddamn gloves, those little gloves that, baby, they hurt. And he would get down on the floor on his knees, and he'd get like this, and he'd let us punch him. And then all of a sudden, he'd come out of there with a pow and pop you one, and you had to learn to defend yourself. My brother was 2 years younger, and he wasn't a fighter. He was a student. But I learned to fight. And before you got nigger out, I had hit you. And I learned that if you get the first one in and get it in good, there ain't going to be no second.
And I'll never forget it. As if he said it just this morning, he said, will you tell your folks to get you a pair of baseball shoes, because you got a chance to be a pretty good baseball player. And from that moment on, I didn't want to play on Sundays anymore with those guys with a half pint of whiskey in their back pockets. I wanted to play with those guys, meaning Jerry Pretty. And I started hearing about Satchel Paige and Buck Leonard and Josh Gibson and those guys. So now I'm beginning to really get into baseball as maybe something I want to do in the future. And then I heard all the adults in the projects buzzing about some man named Jackie Robinson. So I had to ask, who is this Jackie Robinson person? And they told me it was this black man up in Brooklyn, New York. I said, Brooklyn? Where's Brooklyn?
In 1947, Brooklyn came to Puerto Rico and play spring training. My father was playing for the Puerto Rican team. So I was with my dad. So when Jackie came to the ballpark about 4 in the afternoon, when I saw Jackie, that was my day. I was almost faint because I knew of Jackie very well, how much he did for the black people. When I saw him, that was a great day for me.
I was a pitcher. I was signed as a pitcher. Struck everybody out 4 days this time, and I ran everybody in the race. And then the scout came over and asked me if I wanted to play professional baseball. I said, yes, sir. He said, we'll be in touch with you. And we're looking for some big money. I'm going to make them all rich. I'm going to get about $3,000, $4,000. And the scout offered me, to sign me, and he offered me a shirt and a pair of pants with some shoes. And that was it. And I said, huh? And so we were trying to negotiate, what we call negotiating. He said, I tell you what, I'll throw in a tie and a pair of socks and a belt. And got their coats, and they were going to walk out. Or $500. And my father stuttered. Just a moment. So he said, we'll take it. Take the $500. So I signed for $500. I gave my dad half, and I took half. And, but you know, some of your, if I'm not mistaken, I think Willie Mays might have gotten $500 for signing. So that was the going thing in those days, in the early 50s. No matter how good you were, $500. And $500 was more money than I ever saw in my life, my father ever saw.
I was pitching real good. I spent 14 months in the Dominican Air Force. And in those 14 months, I only lost 3 games. And I was pitching every week, sometimes twice a week. They went to the Air Force, they got the contract, and I was so happy. I was so happy to sign that contract and leave that place. And I remember I got $500 bonus, and to me that was big, you know, because I just want to be a baseball player.
A scout from the Dodgers came down there and said he heard I could play baseball. Would I like to go to Cincinnati and try out with the Dodgers? And I said, holy shit, yeah, you bet your life. So I had one suit, a brown herringbone suit, one knit tie, brown with yellow stripes in it, one pair of loafers. The rest of the time, I'd never been in a hotel in my life. So I went to Cincinnati, the Netherland Plaza. Roy Campanella and Joe Black were my chaperones while I was there. And the first thing they did was order room service, which I had no idea what room service was about. We had shrimp cocktail. I had never had a shrimp cocktail. Had sirloin steak, all my own. I never had a sirloin steak. Baked potato with sour cream. I had a baked potato before. We always butter. We had the salad, 6 Cokes, strawberry shortcake a la mode, and then they signed the check. And I said, you guys, that's all, you don't pay for this? And they said, no, with the Dodgers, you just sign that you eat whatever you want. And I said, shit, this is for me, baby.
I signed for $500. And with that money, I buried my father.
Just before I got on the train, I turned around to everybody and said, hey, in 2 years, I'm going to be in Brooklyn with Jackie. That was my dream. I'll be in Brooklyn with Jackie in 2 years. Because I was a toast to the town in Washington, D.C., among the black schools, anyhow. But when I got to professional ball, I found out that every guy there had the same thing going for him. So I was just another player. And it was a humbling experience for me. And I sat this way for 2.5 days, rocking in that train, and loved every moment of it, just looking out of the window. It's the first time I'd been out of the city limits of Washington, D.C. And when I got to Vero Beach, the Dodgers had 25 farm clubs. So I was in one of the 5 Class D clubs, and we were all assembled on one field. And so they were calling our names. And they said, all right, all the catchers behind the home plate, and about 10 guys. He said, all the first basemen, about 5, and all the third basemen, about 10, and all the center fielders, right fielders, left fielders. And so all the pitchers over here, a big horde of guys, big farm boys from Iowa and everything, 6 foot, 5'4" and 5'2". When I found it, I'm there with my little 5'9", so I claim at that, and 150 pounds. And I went over to him and said, "Hey, coach," I said, "I can play second." And he looked over there, there was nobody at second. He said, "We're going over there." And I went over to second base, and I never got to pitch.
I was a kid, you know, and came to this country. I don't know anything. I don't even know how to ask for a glass of water. The food was different. The food was better than the one we used to have in Dominican, but we're not used to that kind of food, so we feel like it was bad.
When I got to Wisconsin, Iowa, Colorado, Utah, in the minor leagues, it was the same as it was in the South. They called me everything but John Roseborough on that field. And guys would come in and try to run over me at the plate. I had guys jump and go through my shin guards, you know, and when you go through the shin guards, baby, you're coming in there hard. But I didn't learn really how to hurt them until I got to major leagues. And by the time Frank Robinson cut me on the arm my first year, I was probably the meanest son that you ever wanted to see. You come home, I'm going to try to kill you. White, black, pink, or it didn't matter.
That night in Salem, I was walking downtown about, say, 8 o'clock, and the policeman, you know, stopped me because black people shouldn't be, you know, downtown after 8 o'clock. So I don't know what they were saying. They held me against the wall and say, "You got to go back to your own people." I said, "Who's my people?" "I'm from Puerto Rico." I said, "Your own people here."
The only thing taking me little bit long to get to the big league was my field, because my hitting was there. Since I started play, I was hitting. My first year, I hit over 400, but I was able to catch a ball. You know, all the fly ball go over my head. The ground ball, I sit on the ground, the ball go through my leg. It was unbelievable. I make 18 errors my first year. Yeah, I went to instruction league, man, and they killing me. They used to hit me a couple 100 ground balls every day, and couple, you know, 100 fly ball. And that was in 1961. In 1962, I played in AA and big league. I already, you know, I played 138 games, I only make 12 errors. I think that was a big change. I improved a lot.
I didn't get to Brooklyn in 2 years. In fact, by the time, you know, after 7.5 years, my dreams were shattered. Hopes were gone that I was going to get to the big leagues. It was only because, you know, by the grace of God, a man came through my life named Bobby Bragan. And Bobby saw me horsing around. I had completely forgotten about going to the big leagues. So he saw me horsing around, and I jumped on the left side of the plate, took a couple of swings. I was strictly a right-handed hitter before. And I just took a couple of swings, horsing around, and I, you know, just horsing around. That's all I was doing. My hopes were gone. And he called me over and asked me if I would have thought of hitting left-handed. He said, "You got nothing to lose. You're in a 7.5-year slump." Bobby Bragan was supposed to have been one of the players who did not want to play. He was going to boycott the team if Jackie played. This is a full circle, you know. And he is the same man, is doing everything he can to get me to the big leagues.
By the end of the season, 1959, in Springfield, Massachusetts, my manager came up to me and said, "Why do you pitch like that?" You know, when he asked me that question, I was shocked, because in amateur ball, I only lost 3 games in the Air Force. In Michigan City, Indiana, I won 23 games and lost 8. I say, "Why do you want to know why did I pitch like that?" I said, "That's how I learned." And then he said to me, "The reason is that if you learn how to pitch, if you learn how to throw overhands, you're going to be more effective against left-handed hitters." When he told me that, you know, I think for a while, and I said, "Yes, I want to learn how to throw overhands." So he took me to the bullpen with 2 baseballs and a catcher. I started throwing overhand, and at the same time I started kicking my leg. And the whole thing started that day.
My time before, when I went to Florida to Salem, I passed Salem. I was afraid I was going to pass Kokomo. So I told the guy who checked the ticket, me going to Kokomo. So every time we stop, I say, Kokomo, and say, no. So keep on going. Try and stop. Kokomo, no. So for the whole day and a half, I can sleep. Kokomo, no. I'll let you know. I was making $150 a month. I had to send my mother $100 every month to pay, whatever. So I ate chili con carne and apple pie al limon for almost 4 weeks. And then I learned hamburger and scrambled eggs. It's funny because I got 3 guys from Dominican with me. I was the interpreter. Whatever I say, you say, same thing. So they asked me, what about you? Same thing,
I had some teammates and some young players from Cuba there, and we were all in the Class D, and we were kind of roommates. We had 5 to a room in the minor league section. They would go into Vero Beach, and these guys were 10 shades darker than I am, but they had no problem going, and they would take me in there with them, and I would sit at this Rexall drugstore counter with a big soda and say, "Hey, Chico, ¿cómo está?" Oh, brother, and then and this big secret, and then when I would come back, and then some of the African American players like John Roosevelt would say, "Boy, you're crazy." Woo!
And then I hit Tacoma in 65. That's the place. I say, this is United States. White people there, they love us. They really make us feel like at home. And even though the general manager of the team, he wants us to sign that in the contract, that we cannot be seen with white people or have a white girlfriend or nothing like that. That was Mr. Rosie Ryan. I say, remember him, I say, Rosie, and he scared you. Right in springtime, I said, Rosie, send me back to AA. I'm not going to go to AAA if that is the condition. He said, but you got a future. I said, I don't care. You don't tell me what to do before or after the game. But see, they know what they're going to do, but you didn't know. So I don't care. I said, go back to AA. I play good there, and the people love me there. But he was just trying to see if I was going to get intimidated. So I went to Tacoma, and if you play, they had to shut them out. I was playing good, so they didn't care what color or person I was associated with.
I'm 18 years old, and my first time away from California, and we were playing a doubleheader in Danville, Virginia. And in Danville, I was still the only African American in that league. And in Danville, they decided to construct a corrugated, partitioned off place for me to dress. And they had the white boys here, and they constructed this because Lord knows what I would do to them if I was in the same room with them. And one day we went to play in Danville. We played a doubleheader, and hot and muggy and sweaty, So after we lost the first game, and we came back into the clubhouse, and I'm in my little corrugated, partitioned off place. They had a little window there, though, and I could see the other guys over there in the other part. And they had taken off their uniforms. We're in the minor leagues. We have one uniform, even though it's a doubleheader. And they had taken their uniforms off, and they throw them all into a big pile. And the equipment manager picks them up, and he puts them into a dryer, and then we wear that uniform for the next game. Well, I did the same thing. I threw my uniform over there. You wouldn't believe the rebel yell that you heard when my uniform went on that side of the little corrugated space. Out comes the equipment manager with a stick with a nail on it, plucked my dirty jock and my uniform out of there, put it in a paper bag, and sent it to the colored cleaners down the street. And for the first time in my life, I cried. It's the last time I cried, too. Sitting there waiting for the next game to start, I'm absolutely naked now. This guy's got my clothes. And I'm waiting for my uniform to come back from the colored cleaners. And it's it's amusing now, but I'm a very angry young man by then. So it takes exactly 36 minutes for your uniform to come back from the elite cleaners, by the way. I remember it well.
I was the first African-American coach in the Major Leagues. That was in 1962. And Jim Enright, who was the writer, he's a sports writer, and he said, Buck, I know you all elated, you're glad to be here. I said, yeah, to be the first black to coach in the Major Leagues. I said, yes, I'm glad I'm here. That's the sweet part about it, but the bitter part about it is I knew Rube Foster. I knew Smokey Joe Williams. I knew Bullet Joe Rogan. I knew Candy Jim Taylor. I knew Frank Duncan. I knew guys that should have had this job 50 years ago. So that makes it a little bittersweet for me. So I can't go with my chest out because the guys before me should have been here.
The National League was better than the American League. It's a different league. I mean, American League is not a picnic. You gotta go, you gotta still do it. But in the National League, they have better pitching, better ballpark, and better umpires. Yeah. When you have Frank Robinson, Ernie Banks, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Ferguson Jenkins, Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, Billy Williams, in the prime, what else? When they traded me in '66, the Cardinals, it was a sad day for me, very sad, because I grew up, in the Giants organization. And then for me, even though I want to leave the Giants because, I wasn't playing, when I went to St. Louis, right from the beginning, they made me feel welcome. Gibson came to me, McCarver, everybody. So right from the beginning. And I have to say that's the best baseball team I've ever seen in my whole life. We were so good that we don't need red shandies. We used to put our sign, hit and run, bunt, and Reggie stood there and say, let's go, boy, go and get it. Yeah.
The ultimate goal was to win, and we didn't let friendships get in the way of that. If you like me, that's kind of cute, but I'm going to beat you, even if I got my wife and her friends together, we're going to beat you. And that is the way I approach it. I never played baseball. None of us ever did. We had Bob Gibson in Orlando and Lou Brock, and men that really could just bring it to you, and we knew it, and we would. And we'd come out of the chute in spring training, the best at what we do, the best trained, and the most vicious almost, to a degree where we wanted just to bury you. And then later on, after the game was over, maybe we might say hello,
Whenever I have to dive back, I know that's my maximum lead off of that particular pitcher. Well, each time I'm going back, because this is a record. I got my maximum lead, so I'm going back head first. Wham, I'm going back head first. And Bill White was the first baseman who was the National League president not too long ago, and he's left-handed, and he's catching that ball, and he's coming down on my head, boom, with that big mitt, and just beat me all over the head as I'm diving head first, trying to make me shorten up. One time he came down like that, and I moved my head, and he missed me, so he came back and got me on the back. Oh, and I jumped up and said, hey, brother. He said, don't give me that brother stuff. I'm trying to break this record against him. That's where integrity in baseball really is strong. Somebody's got a no-hitter. He's one of your best buddies. Hey, you ain't going to pitch a no-hitter against us. I'm going to go up there and do my best to get a base hit to break up that no-hitter.
I believe baseball was tougher during our generation because, it starts with Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson raised the level of competition to such a degree that it brought everybody else up. And then came Larry Doby, and then came Campanella, and then came all these wonderful, talented men of color, and it raised the level of competition up to a degree where, let me tell you, the last place team that we used to love to play against, and New York Mets. We used to go into New York and just beat up on them. And they had Nolan Ryan, Gentry, Kuzman, you know. We used to go into Chicago. They were in the second division. And they had Ferguson Jenkins and Ernie Banks and Billy Williams and Ron Santo. The level of the competition in the National League was raised by the addition of African-American baseball players to such a degree that I know that we were better than the American League. And it was a long time before the American League started to get black ball players.
Alvin Dark, he for some reason, he don't like blacks and Latin ball players. I said it openly, I don't care for this guy here. They can think. They're dumb, yeah. So it's very hard on me. And the reason I have trouble with my knee today because of him. Because I hurt my knee in Puerto Rico in '62. I didn't play winter ball, first time ever. So I was working out. I was lifting weights, and the weight came down and crushed my knee. But I didn't say anything because he keeps saying that I was faking, a fake injury not to play the game. So I didn't say anything. So that ruined my career.
I used to feel, so hurt inside sometime because to me, Alvin Dark, one day he was the best man in earth, and the next day I think he was the worst. And I don't know why. I don't know why a person can change that quick. I remember one time in Milwaukee, Orlando was having problems with his leg, and he couldn't hardly walk. So a day before, I think Alvin Dark gave Jose Pagan it was $100 or $200 to take all the Latin players to dinner. So we went out. The next day, Orlando wasn't playing, and he was on the bench, and he pinch hit Orlando. So Orlando went to hit. He hit a ground ball to shortstop. He couldn't run. So after the game, he fined him the same amount that he gave us to go to dinner.
Yes, the press always label you with certain names, and mine was a hot dog. And at that time, if you are a start, like a Pete Rose, the style of play that he has, which was similar to mine and other Latin players, they call him, he's Mr. Hustle. But Tito Fuentes, Jose Cardenar, Willie Montañez, the same type of player that he did, always hustling, always trying to do tricks, always to be, flamboyant, always a crowd pleaser. They call us hot dog. And at that time, hot dog was very inexpensive, 25 cents, so you would have us. But like I said, but we didn't change our style. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to mention these two teammates of mine, but in '65, these two guys that I'm playing the team with called me up. And they say, of course, I couldn't understand, so they had to have Marichal there with me to tell me that I was embarrassing the team because the way I played. And my temper went. I said, Juan, what the hell are they talking about? This is why they took me to be in the big league the way I play. I'm not going to change.
In '63 or '4, when we came to spring training, they have a sign say, "Speak English. You're in America." So I look at that. I don't say anything. And then that day, after the workout, he called all the Latin ball players behind second base and said, "Listen, you have to speak English in the clubhouse." I say, "Why?" I said, "Because nobody knows what you're talking about." I said, I don't care because we got Jose, they got Felipe, Juan. It's going to be an insult to our roots to speak English. Because first of all, Jose can't speak. I'm going to talk by sign because he don't know what I'm saying. So I'm not going to do it. I don't care what you do, I'm not going to do it. So he don't say anything. Well, I know he took it very hard because I say, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm proud to be Puerto Rican. Like he's Dominican, like he's from Venezuela.
Yes, I don't think it was fair that Alvin Dark wouldn't force all the Latin players to speak English because he knew that we cannot speak very well. I I agree that we should try to learn, but just by forcing us to speak English, I think that was unfair.
They call it negotiating periods after, when we were trying to get together on contracts, but there was no such thing. They could tell us to take it or leave and stay home all summer. They told me that about 3 times. I'll never forget when I stole 104 bases. I said, well, I got them now. So I went in to negotiate what I thought would be a negotiating period. I came out of the office happy I was still on the ball club.
In 1962, we won the pennant. We lost to the Yankees. I hit 36 home run, 116 RBI, played 162 games, hit 300, and they wanted to cut my salary.
With a black ball player, after you are not number 1 in that lineup, you don't sit on the bench. Now, years ago, we had Duke Snyder in center field for the Dodgers, and Duke was making, say, $40,000 a year. I'm catching 125, 130 games, kicking ass and taking names. I don't get hurt. I'm no goddamn problem. I hit the ball, block. I do everything that has to be done better than anybody else. And I'm making, say, $20,000, and I have to beg like a son of a bitch for 20. So I go to Buzzy, and I say, Buzzy, I need some money, man. And I said, Jesus, look at Snyder. Snyder's making 40 grand. He don't even play. And Buzzy says, well, Rosie, when you get that age, you'll be able to sit on a bench. Now, my mama didn't raise no fools. I said, you got to be shitting me. Ain't no way. Even in those days, at my age, you realized that if you're black, you better be good. You better be a whole lot better than everybody else.
I guess throughout our careers, we were forced to play for a lot less money than we deserved. One of the ways they keep salaries down, too, by the way, is you never discuss it with your colleagues. And if you don't know how much he's making, you have no idea how much you're worth. But we've played together for a long time, so Mike and I, we were okay. I was talking to Mike. And he said, well, if we can't have a better year than we had, he said, I'm going to ask for a raise, too. So Mike goes in, and he comes back out, and he gives me, hey, listen, this was easy. So now it's my turn, and I go into to the general manager's office, and I said, well, we won the pennant, we did this, and the attendance is up and everything. He said, I think I deserve $5,000 more. And he says, that's impossible. He said, there's just no room in our budget for that. And he went to name 1,000 reasons why I couldn't have $5,000 more, from resodding the outfield to painting the outfield wall. And I said, wait a minute now, you just gave Mike Shannon exactly what he wanted. And I know you did. And this guy looked me straight in the eyes, and he said, well, white boys require more money to live on than black boys do.
I remember the one year I won 25 games. I said to myself, well, I'm gonna ask for a lot of money. And I was waiting for Sandy and Drysdale to sign, and they was hold out for, I think, 150,000, something like that. And I said to myself, well, if they get 150, I think I can get that too, because I won 25 games, I lost 5, and I think that's a great year. So I stayed in Dominican, and we communicate every day, back and forth. And they don't want to give me 125,000. That was what I was asking for. So Herman Franks told Chop Feeney, he said, Chop, you better give that guy that money, because I know him. He's gonna stay there. He ain't gonna come. So he told him, he said, that guy have a lot of pride, and if he told you that that's what he wants, if you don't give it to him, he ain't gonna show up. So I think we got 7 days left in spring training. And Chop Feeney called me. He said, take the first flight to Phoenix. We're going to give you 125,000. So the next day, I was flying to Phoenix. I got there. Then he called me to his office and said, let's talk about the contract. I said, what are we going to talk about? I thought we were going to sign the contract. He said, oh, no, we're not going to sign no contract. I said, there's no way we can pay you that much money. I said, but you agreed to pay me that, and you said to take the first flight to Phoenix. I said, yes, but we changed that. We're not going to give you that kind of money. And he said, there's no way you can make that kind of money cutting sugar cane in Dominican. And let me tell you, that really hurt. And I don't know what to say for minutes, you know, and then something came out and I said, oh no, I said, I never cut sugar cane in my life, but if I have to do it to make a living, I will do it. But let me tell you, I bet you if you give me my release right now, I can make more than 125. And he got so mad. He said, come on, sign the contract. And I signed the contract for 125.
We had a great team. And, you know, we talk about the Dodgers in the 50s, but the family I liked was Mr. Koufax and Mr. Drysdale, Mr. Paranowski, Maury Wills, Johnny Roseborough. The Dodgers' belief in the family is true because from 47, when Jackie was there, until about 81, the Dodgers only had 3 teams, just 3 sets of teams in 34 years. So they believe in family. They want you to play together as long as they could and do well together. Maury Wills, the captain, we had the ball together. We fought together, but we had a ball together. Maury's the type of guy, any way he could win, he would win. If it was sacrificing his body and having the other team mad at him, he didn't care. I mean, he would do things like maybe steal when the game was out of hand. But see, they would remember that. But they would, and then when he come back, they throw at him. But the fact is, if they threw at him and hit him, he got back on base again, and he stole again. And Maury was just an outstanding person.
Maury Wills was our offense. If we could get Maury Wills on base, and it's very important in baseball to me to have speed. Speed puts pressure on the defense. The defense has to change their plan if that leadoff man gets on and he's got speed. Pitcher, catcher, second base, shortstop, and the manager, they're all upset because, oh shit, now what do we do? I can't throw curveballs. I can't throw a change up. I don't want to throw the ball in the middle of the plate. He might go. Second base, shortstop's worrying who's going to cover. Do we take the early step? The manager's over there pulling his hair. He can't. He wants to call a pitch out, but he doesn't know when the hell to call the pitch out. And with Maury was on his own, so it's not going to be the manager. You can't read the manager's mind, and Maury just loves to run. So Maury was the basis of our ball club.
After 1960, baseball took another phase, another way of playing. And Maury Will is the one responsible for that, which is baseball before was a baseball that to me was dull, if I look at it, which is if you throw hard, you can be a pitcher. If you got power, you can play. Because it was a lot of runs, and all the people do is hit a home run and have power to be strong and be big. And Maury Will is a guy that nobody knew he was going to make it, struggling in the minor, a little guy 5'8" or 5'10" or whatever, came into the big league and prove, first he said it with the mouth, and nobody believed it, that you can win a game with other things, not just a home run. Because you don't have to win 10-1. You can win 1-0 and 2-1.
One of the first things they taught us was to hate the Giants. You'll learn that before you even learn the Dodger way to make the double play or the Dodger way to bunt. You hate the Giants.
I hate the Dodgers. I hate him. I used to hate Maury Will, Tommy Davis, John Roseborough, Don Drysdale, because he got me out all the time. I hate him.
The Dodger Booster Club and the Dodger Go-Go Fan Club would come parading through the Giant stands with a big pennant and noisemakers, aggravating the Giant fans to the point where, I mean, the game was really in the stands, not on the field, really.
That was a war. gone to the Dodgers or they came to San Francisco were the same way, you know. I remember Alvin Dark put a lot of waters around first base for Maury Will not to steal bases. That was something that the fans loved to see those things, you know. And I used to love to pitch against the Dodgers. I don't know why. Maybe because it was a full house every time we faced each other.
And you can feel the energy when we play the Dodgers. Fight every single game. Because they got Maury Will, he did anything to get on base. And they got Tommy Davis, who cleaned the bases. They got Juan Marichard, boom, did somebody with the ball. Right?
I didn't know Marichal. I knew he was the best goddamn pitcher in the league. But I hated him because he was good, not because he was a bad man or anything. When we play San Francisco, it's always a war. You know, people get knocked down, people get run over, fights happen. Lou Johnson's on the team, so watch out because he's the worst man in the world. He'll fight God. So Maury Wills pulls one of his Dickie Smiths. He goes up and he fakes a bunt, pulls the bat back, hits the catcher's mitt, interference. He gets first base. We're off. Steal second, get him over to third. Before you know it, we're one run ahead. And they are seething over on the other side over there. So Matty Alou comes up to the plate, their leadoff hitter, and damn if he doesn't try to do the same thing to me. Fakes the bunt, pulls the bat back, ball beats shit out of him, hits me in the chest. And I look at him and I see, you little rat-faced son of a bitch, I ought to drive you in the ground. And then I think, it's not Matty, it has to be the manager. And I look over there, and there's the manager, and beside him is Marichal, and they're giving me all kinds of shit. So I'm saying, come out, let's get together, you know, you MFs. And the game went on, I don't even know how the game ended. But as I left that night, all the players go out the same way in San Francisco. I told Cepeda to tell that so-and-so Marichal keep his mouth shut. Don't run your mouth behind the manager. If you want to get it on, we can get it on.
In the same game, he talked to Cookie Lavallero. He was a first base coach for us with the Giants. He talked to Orlando, and he talked to Matty Alou, and he told those three guys, they tell one to shut his big mouth if you don't want to get one behind his ear. So when one guy told me, I said, oh, no, he's just kidding, you know. And, but then the other guy came and told me the same message. Then Cookie Lavallero came. I said, man, this guy might be business, you know, maybe he wanted to do it. But that was on Friday night. After by the fifth inning, Herman Frank sent me home because it was cold, and I was supposed to pitch on Sunday, so I went home. The next day we came, and nothing happened. You know, we played the game, and we went home. And now I'm pitching Sunday against Sandy Koufax. So the first batter was Maury Will. He bunts, get on base, still second. Fly ball, he went to third. Another fly ball, he scored, 1-0. Now, second inning and third inning, he came back to the plate. And I said to myself, well, I'm going to pitch him inside. If he try to bunt, he's going to get it. So, man, exactly the way I thought. You know, I pitched him right here. He started to run to bunt. And, man, if he didn't get away quick, that ball was going to, then he hit the ground. Those guy was hollered from the bench. Ferdy came to the plate. I threw a ball. That ball was almost strike, and he went down. Yeah. Now those guys, they mad.
I'm sitting on the bench, and we're talking about retaliation, and Sandy wouldn't throw at anybody. So I say, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And I have a play, Bob Friend, I remember, threw at me one time. And if you throw at me and it's an accident, I don't get too upset. But if you throw at me and then look at me like, frig you, then you and I are going to go to war somehow. So Bob Friend threw at me, and I used to call the pitcher fastball inside, throw it inside, I'd drop it, do a drop step. When I pick it up and throw it back to the pitcher, I throw it as close as I can to your friggin' nose, and it scares the shit out of you. So I said, I'll take care of it from behind the plate.
So I came to hit. And walking from the bench to the plate, I said to myself, well, they might think I'm throwing on purpose to those guys. So maybe Sandy gonna knock me down. There's back of my mind, that I say, there's no way Sandy don't do that. So I went to the plate. I said, I'm gonna take the first pitch. So I did. First pitch, ball. Well, let me take another one. Second pitch was right on the middle of the plate. And when the ball was going by, I was like this. And then I looked, and Johnny dropped the ball just like that and let it roll behind home plate.
We play against Sandy Koufax, which is my third game in the big league. And the first inning, I don't know what I did. Probably I was out. Now in the second inning, I'm there in the under circle, picking my spot, what I'm going to do now, Koufax. But I wasn't not looking at what's happening. I see every time he pitched, I see Rosboro, which I know is a good defense catcher. The ball was going by, right on base. He said it's windy, and he took the ball back. The second pitch, the same way. The ball went back. He didn't catch it. He just stopped it and let it roll and threw back to the mound. I was ignorant what was going on. My mind was, if I get a hit against Sandy Koufax, that's it. I can send the clip to my mother.
We did it just that way. Sandy threw the ball low inside. I drop step, threw it back.
I stayed there looking at Sandy, and I was lucky that he didn't kill me. That ball nipped my ear. Then I looked back and I asked him why he do that, and he called my mother all kind of names. So I asked him the second time, and he gave me the same answer.
I remember Marichal say, "Why did you do that?" And then Rosboro didn't have time to answer. He just came, bah! He hit Rosboro with the bat. And then he hit him again. And he said, that's the way we fight back home. You defended your friend.
By that time, now when he was talking to me, he was charging me with all the mask and protection and everything. And I just tried to stop him. I didn't hit it hard. People say that I hit him on top of the head with a bat. Man, if I hit him with a bat, I kill him. But I just wanted to stop him.
And I heard, you better not hit me with that ball. And I started up and I saw a bat coming. And I said, oh shit. Got my parry up, and he only got probably half of me. And boy, the blood spurted everywhere. And I got in one punch before he started hauling ass for the mound. I chased him towards the mound, and he made a beeline for the dugout. And I turned to go after him, and I slipped down. And that's when Fuentes and he both stopped, and they came up, and you see the pictures with the bats in the coup de grace, and the Sandy's going, and the umpire's going,
But when I was there, Rosboro got Marichal grabbed by the shirt, which showed me a lot. And then when I went to hit Rosboro for the third time, which was going to be the final, I looked and he was bleeding all over his face. So I thought that Marichal took one eye out because you could see nothing. And that is when I went reverse. I started putting my bat down. I said, I cannot hit this guy. And then after that, I find out that it was blood from the head. So I'm glad I didn't get to hit it because that would have been really the big blow.
By that time, Lou Johnson was on the mound, and a kid named Howie Reed, a pitcher, down in the bullpen. By the time I got to the mound chasing us, they were there. And baby, then we had Danny Ozark, one of our coaches, who had hands like hams. Man, we had the damnedest fight you ever wanted to see. And then, after I couldn't find Marichal, Willie Mays grabbed me and said, Rosie, stop fighting, your eye is out, because all this side was full of blood, all over everything. And I said, shit, I only hit that sumbitch one time, I gotta go again. So we started it all over again.
And that was bad. After that, police all over, blood, and the game was not the same after that.
They wanted to take me out of the ball game, and I said, no, just stitch that sumbitch up. I'm going back out there. I don't want to give them that. And they wouldn't let me. So I had to walk all the way from the visitors' dugout in San Francisco all the way across that field with people just calling me everything but John. And I gave him my patented.
I lived with that thing inside of me for many, many years because people thought that I was the bad man, you know. I was the bad person. So about 5 years, maybe longer than that, after that, I went to Cooperstown. And Sandy came up to me, Sandy Koufax, and he said, Juan, you and Johnny friends? I said, yeah. I invited Johnny and his family to Dominican to play my one Marischal Golf Classic. And I'm glad that I did that because I don't want to have any enemies. I wish that could have never took place, you know, because I think that's the only black part in my career. And I regret.
Juan was trying to get into the Hall of Fame at the time, and we think that he was held out because of the fight. And we both had hot scalding water in our eyes when he made it. And, you know, it was a good feeling, very good feeling.
Let's say, do I dream about baseball now? Yes, because it's been part of my life. It's the nucleus of my life. I dream about playing right now and being young again and hitting a Grand Slam in a World Series or something like that, or an All-Star game, and making the big money they're making now. I dream about that often, come to think of it.
After I retired, I used to dream almost every night. But sometimes was bad dream, sometimes was nightmare. When you see a line drive back, you know, right to your face, and man, you jump on bed, and your wife say next to you, what happening to you? You getting nuts or something? Sometimes you get good dreams. Like one time, not too long ago, I was dreaming that I was pitching, and I was pitching so great. So I wake up thinking that I was active pitcher. Man, when I wake up, you know, I say, oh my God, it's a dream. You know, I was so disappointed. Oh yeah.
I had to admit it, yes. It's hard to say because you want to tell everybody that you don't think about the game, that you don't like the game or whatever. We all say that, but that is, in my opinion, that's a lie. Inside, we have sentimental for the game, and we believe still that we can play. And I never tell anybody the dreams, but I see myself many times playing, but not playing any better than I play the same way with the same guys and do the same thing. Of course, when you dream, you're always good, but I see myself, and then I wake up and I say, I wish it could be true that I was playing that moment. But it's good to have dreams, even though now I cannot realize it. But by coming and passing my little experience and my knowledge to the young, that is as good as playing.
I think the 60s was the best baseball. You know, a lot of people said, Maury, don't you feel bad because you missed all that big money? You played back in the 60s? I said, no, and I meant that. If I did it all over again, I'd still, under the same conditions, would want to play in the 60s. We played for the love of the game, and it was good baseball.
I told one throw over a few times.
He picked me off, got me leaning like this, I'm like this, you know, and he came at me, he just did this. Shoom, the ball hit the fence in left field.
He was happy. He come and he say, I did it, Rooney.
He missed me. Now it leads up to this play. So we're at Dodger Stadium one time, and I hit a ground ball down there on the left side of the diamond, and I'm running as hard as I can to first base. I'm not looking, and I'm getting ready to go through the bag, right? And Orlando cut the ball like it ain't went. Boom! Boy, I just went like this.
But you okay?
And I got it.